Today I'd like to talk about the difference between venom and poison. They're both bad when they get into your body, but there is a difference between the two. And to explain it first, I'm going to start with a worker honeybee. The second example I want to show you is this pufferfish. When you catch this fish and pull it out of the water, it actually inflates itself with air. And I'm going to play it again so you can hear the sound that it makes when it huffs and puffs. He's blowing himself up. Look at that. He's blowing himself up.
What is he like?
He's full of air. So I've shown you these two animals, a bee and a pufferfish, and one of these is venomous and the other one is poisonous, and I want you to try to guess which one it is. If you guessed that the bee was venomous and the pufferfish was poisonous, then you're right. Now the difference between venom and poison is how it enters your body. Venom is injected with a stinger or with teeth or with some other device. Venom is actually injected into you, whereas a poison is eaten by you. So you can think of venoms are injected, poisons are ingested. So there's no such thing as a poisonous snake. There are, however, quite a few venomous snakes. So in general, venoms are proteins, and they usually are proteins that affect nerve receptors, pain receptors in your body. However, there are other venoms. An example is the brown recluse spider, which actually does not have a neurotoxic venom. Its venom is more, it's like an enzyme that digests flesh. This is a close-up of a bee stinger. And a bee stinger is unique in that it actually has barbs, small barbs, and it leaves its stinger behind when it stings you. And it doesn't just leave the stinger behind, it leaves behind a whole apparatus made up of a venom gland, a venom sac, and some muscles that contract. And so the bee stings you and leaves, leaving its stinger behind, and the stinger continuously pumps venom into your body. That's why it's important to get a stinger out as soon as you can after you've been stung. An interesting thing about the stingers in the bees, wasps, and ants is they've actually evolved from an ovipositor. So an ovipositor is a structure that female insects have that usually lays eggs in certain places. And bees have co-opted their ovipositor into a stinger. And that's true across all of the bees, wasps, and ants. And an interesting thing that comes from that is that only females can sting. Males often look a lot like females, but they're completely incapable of stinging because they don't have the hardware. Now, bee stings are not terribly painful, but for some reason they're always a little bit more painful than you remember from the last time you were stung. So if we're going to talk about the pain inflicted by venoms, we have to talk about Justin Schmidt. Justin Schmidt was an entomologist, and he specialized in venoms. He also did a lot with honeybees. And he set out to sting himself with as many insects as he could. And he ended up doing probably hundreds of insects over his career. But he published it all in The Sting of the Wild. This is the first book that he put out on this pain index. And his index is rated from 1 being mildly discomforting, mildly painful, to 4, which was extremely painful, which is like unbearably painful. The honeybee itself falls at about a 2.5. So it's a fairly it's above average when it comes to sting pain. This pain index and Schmidt's efforts didn't go unnoticed by Hollywood.
Parapanera clavata.
I know. Bullet ants, right?
#1 on the Schmidt pain index.
Hey guys, remember me from the bedroom?
Marvel's Ant-Man, coming to digital and Blu-ray.
So that was in the movie Ant-Man, and he knew the level of pain that was in these bullet ants. But the thing that kind of drives me crazy is he got it wrong. Actually, a bullet ant is a 4 on the scale, not a 1. So Marvel, if you need a staff entomologist, I'm right here. So along with the number from 1 to 4 for the Schmidt pain index, he also has these written descriptions next to every species that he studied. And some of these are fantastic. Here's one example. Looks deceive, rich and full-bodied in appearance, but flavorless. That's an example of a moderately painful sting. And this is a bullet ant, which is one of the most painful insect stings in nature. Pure, intense, brilliant pain, like walking over flaming charcoal with a 3-inch nail embedded in your heel. This is a picture I took of Justin Schmidt, who visited our center at one time to do some honeybee courses. And I actually got the honor of finding him an orchid bee to sting himself with, because he had never been stung by an orchid bee. So I got to help him out, and that's what we're doing. The orchid bee scored about a 1.5. They're really not very painful, and they don't leave the stinger behind you. They just sting once and try to get away as fast as they can. Now, one question I asked myself when I set out to do this is what if you ate the venom gland of a snake? Wouldn't it then also be poisonous? So you'd have a venomous and a poisonous animal. And I looked it up, and it turns out most venoms are actually not toxic to eat. They actually are digested by your body. Now, that's only assuming you don't have a cut in your mouth or a bleeding ulcer or something in your stomach, some way for it to get into your bloodstream. But otherwise, venoms are usually pretty harmless to consume.
What we don't know.
So the thing about venoms is they're very species specific. Every species has its own twist, its own take on a venom. And when you look at the whole group of the bees, wasps, and the ants, you have got uncountable species of these things all over the world. You know, in the tropics, I'm just assuming the tropical Amazon, there's a ton of bees down there, or wasps, or other things that have venoms that have never been studied. Now, some of the best venoms, the most common venoms, are pretty well known. But a lot of these other venoms are going to be completely unknown to science. And the interesting thing about studying things like this, you know, venoms or other chemicals found in nature that have an effect on a person, is lots of times there may be a therapeutic angle here. It might actually become a therapeutic chemical.